Hello and welcome to another episode of Truth Explained. I'm Hugo Pellegrino and today I'll be talking about nuclear energy. As always, thank you very much for watching today's video and do not forget to subscribe to the channel. We also have English, Spanish, Portuguese and even French subtitles.
The Chernobyl disaster was a nuclear accident that occurred on Saturday the 26th of April 1986 at the No. 4 reactor in the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, near the city of Pripyat in the north of the Ukrainian SSR and the Soviet Union. It is considered the worst nuclear disaster in history both in terms of cost and casualties, and is one of only 2 nuclear energy accidents rated at 7, the maximum severity, on the International Nuclear Event Scale, the other being the 2011 Fukushima Daiichi nuclear disaster in Japan. The initial emergency response, together with later decontamination of the environment, ultimately involved more than 500,000 personnel and cost an estimated 18 billion Soviet rubles, roughly $68 billion in 2019, adjusted for inflation. The accident occurred during a safety test on the steam turbine of an RBMK-type nuclear reactor. During the planned decrease of reactor power in preparation for the electrical test, the power unexpectedly dropped to a near-zero level. The operators were unable to fully restore the power level specified by the test program, which put the reactor in an unstable condition. This risk was not made evident in the operating instructions, so the operators proceeded with the test. Upon test completion, the operators triggered a reactor shutdown, but a combination of unstable conditions and reactor design flaws caused an uncontrolled nuclear chain reaction instead. A large amount of energy was suddenly released, and 2 or more explosions ruptured the reactor core and destroyed the reactor building. One was a highly destructive steam explosion from the vaporizing superheated cooling water. The other explosion could have been another steam explosion, a hydrogen deflagration, or a small nuclear explosion, akin to a nuclear fizzle. This was immediately followed by an open-air reactor core meltdown that released considerable airborne radioactive contamination for about 9 days that precipitated onto parts of the USSR and Western Europe, especially Belarus, 16 kilometers away, where around 70% landed, before finally ending on the 4th of May 1986. The fire gradually released about the same amount of contamination as the initial explosion. As a result of rising ambient radiation levels offsite, a 10-kilometer radius exclusion zone was created 36 hours after the accident. About 39,000 people were evacuated from the area, primarily from Pripyat. The exclusion zone was later increased to 30 kilometers when a further 68,000 people were evacuated from the wider area. The reactor explosion killed 2 engineers and severely burned 2 more. A massive emergency operation to put out the fire, stabilize the reactor, and clean up the ejected nuclear core began. In the disaster and immediate response, 134 station staff and firemen were hospitalized with acute radiation syndrome due to absorbing high doses of ionizing radiation. Of these 134 people, 28 died in the days to months afterward and approximately 14 suspected radiation-induced cancer deaths followed within the next 10 years. Significant cleanup operations were taken in the exclusion zone to deal with local fallout, and the exclusion zone was made permanent. Among the wider population, in excess of 15 childhood thyroid cancer deaths were documented as of 2011. The United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation has, at multiple times, reviewed all the published research on the incident and found that at present, fewer than 100 documented deaths are likely to be attributable to increased exposure to radiation. Determining the total eventual number of exposure-related deaths is uncertain based on the linear no-threshold model, a contested statistical model, which has also been used in estimates of low-level radon and air pollution exposure. Model predictions with the greatest confidence values of the eventual total death toll in the decades ahead from Chernobyl releases vary, from 4,000 fatalities when solely assessing the 3 most contaminated former Soviet states, to about 9,000 to 16,000 fatalities when assessing the total continent of Europe.
If you need a break, you can always pause the video, grab a glass of water, and remember to subscribe to the channel and go to my Patreon link that is on the bottom of the screen.
The 3 Mile Island accident was a partial meltdown of reactor number 2 of 3 Mile Island Nuclear Generating Station in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania, near Harrisburg. and subsequent radiation leak that occurred on March 28, 1979. It is the most significant accident in U.S. commercial nuclear power plant history. On the 7-point International Nuclear Event Scale, the incident was rated a 5 as an accident with wider consequences. The accident began with failures in the non-nuclear secondary system, followed by a stuck-open pilot-operated relief valve in the primary system. This allowed large amounts of nuclear reactor coolant to escape. The mechanical failures were compounded by the initial failure of plant operators to recognize the situation as a loss of coolant accident due to inadequate training and human factors, such as human-computer interaction design oversights relating to ambiguous control room indicators in the power plant's user interface. In particular, a hidden indicator light led to an operator manually overriding the automatic emergency cooling system of the reactor because the operator mistakenly believed there was too much coolant water present in the reactor and causing the steam pressure release. The accident crystallized anti-nuclear safety concerns among activists and the general public and resulted in new regulations for the nuclear industry. It has been cited as a contributor to the decline of a new reactor construction program, a slowdown that was already underway in the 1970s. The partial meltdown resulted in the release of radioactive gases and radioactive iodine into the environment. Anti-nuclear movement activists expressed worries about regional health effects from the accident. However, epidemiological studies analyzing the rate of cancer in and around the area since the accident determined there was not a statistically significant increase in the rate, and thus no causal connection linking the accident with these cancers has been substantiated. Cleanup started in August 1979 and officially ended in December 1993, with a total cleanup cost of about $1 billion.
The nuclear energy industry is expected to gain further acceptance throughout the world due to the high cost and decreasing supply of fossil fuels. Therefore, concerns over radioactive leaks are extremely significant. The nuclear energy industry has requirements that range from valves, fittings, and piping to large enclosure vessels. We work closely with our nuclear customers to develop metal seals and sealing systems ranging in size from 0.500 inch to 250.00 inches in diameter and a variety of shapes unique to each application. From the outset, there has been a strong awareness of the potential hazard of both nuclear criticality and release of radioactive materials from generating electricity with nuclear power. As in other industries, the design and operation of nuclear power plants aims to minimize the likelihood of accidents and avoid major human consequences when they occur. There have been 2 major reactor accidents in the history of civil nuclear power, Chernobyl and Fukushima Daiichi. Chernobyl involved an intense fire without provision for containment, and Fukushima Daiichi severely tested the containment, allowing some release of radioactivity. These are the only major accidents to have occurred in over 18,500 cumulative reactor years of commercial nuclear power operation in 36 countries. The evidence over 6 decades shows that nuclear power is a safe means of generating electricity. The risk of accidents in nuclear power plants is low and declining. The consequences of an accident or terrorist attack are minimal compared with other commonly accepted risks. Radiological effects on people of any radioactive releases can be avoided.
So, what is my feeling regarding nuclear energy? Is it safe? For me it is. Should we use it more? Even though we had the 3 Mile Island incident and the Chernobyl incident? I want you to tell me what you think. As always, thank you very much for watching today's videos. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you have any doubts at all, you can always send me an email to hugo.loh@gmail.com.